Okay, before I tell my story, I will summarize what a skinwalker is for those that may not know. A skinwalker is a being or entity that kills an organism and uses the skin as a disguise. It is mainly active at night, but will observe during the day. Its favorite disguise is that of a human. A skinwalker's most notable traits are yellow glowing eyes, and if you can get close enough before you're killed, decaying flesh. Anyway, I was headed to a small town in southern Utah with my wife and a couple of friends. We were on our way to see Lee, a friend of mine that we hadn't seen for a long time. We met up with him at his place and decided to hang out at a nearby lake. It was a typical quiet campsite with a fire pit and a couple of logs around it. We had a little picnic there and exchanging stories and catching up with each other all day. Eventually, one of my friends, Bryce, got tired and decided to fall asleep in the car while the rest of us continued talking. At this point, twilight had fallen. Eric and I were discussing something while my wife and Lee were talking about something else. All of a sudden, my wife and Lee fall silent. Eric and I quickly notice. We look at them and Lee says, "Get in the car." I asked him what's wrong, and he says there might be a skinwalker out around. Now Eric and I had no idea what a skinwalker was at the time, so we asked him to explain. After his explanation of what it was, Eric and I, being the only sensible thinkers at the moment, and Bryce just barely waking up from us jumping in the car, decided we should investigate, believing that it was probably just some kids in a nearby campsite trying to mess with us. We came to the top of the hill that was between our campsite and the next and looked for any likely candidates for the scare. None. All we could see was a couple of trees and some bushes. We even called out and there was no response. As we were walking back to the campsite, we heard it. A rustling in the bushes behind us. We look again, but see nothing. At this point, we were considering that Lee and my wife may be right. We get back, and it's getting dark fast, so I asked them, "Is there something we can do to keep them away for a little bit?" "Yes," said Lee. "They don't like fire." And my wife, Bryce, and he start working on a fire while Eric and I go down by the lake to collect 2 liters that we had put in the water to keep cold. Now it's dark, and as Erica and I head back with the sodas, we hear rustling in the bushes beside us. We're both scared. We hurry back and start putting everything back in the car as quickly as possible, while Lee made sure the fire kept burning. After getting everything in the car, I rush over to the fire pit and tell everyone to get in the car as I proceed to stomp the fire out. Right as the fire went out, I hear a blood-curdling scream across the lake. I felt my heart stop. Lee said skinwalkers are fast and can make a full lap around this lake in a matter of seconds. I jump in the car and yell, "Go!" Right as the engine started and the lights come on, we see it. Coming out of the bushes in front of us, glowing yellow eyes, and what looked like a zombified coyote with decaying flesh. A skinwalker. We backed up and peeled out of there as fast as we could. This happened 2 years ago, and it still scares me to know how close I came to death. I am honestly amazed that we all survived such a close encounter with this being. This story belongs to a friend of mine. He told me this once and I simply have to tell it. My friend is one of Wikinu heritage, a Native American tribe who settled in the Pacific Northwest coast. He is quite the character. For one, he's a whopping 6'10" and has the blackest eyes you could ever imagine. He always has this frowning face going on, which makes him even more intimidating. He is everything but a bad guy. In fact, he's the most gentle of giants. He was working at a gas station up north back in 1992, and he pretty much always worked the graveyard shift from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. when he was relieved. Business wasn't exactly booming at nights, so he was usually watching TV or reading magazines between customers. The area he lived and worked in was deeply associated with all things Native American. There was a potent sense of pride in the surrounding communities, but also a very distinct presence of superstition and old traditions. My friend was no exception. He was a firm believer of the ways of the old. This made his encounter even more terrifying. One night, he was sitting as usual watching TV when a customer entered the gas station. The customer paid for his gas, a pack of smokes, and some soda and returned to his car. Nothing unusual. But, as my friend looked out the window toward the customer's car, he spotted what looked like a huge dog sitting by the edge of the woods. Now, the window is located on the side of the building, some distance from the sliding door, overlooking the pumps and the roof covering it. On the sides of the roof are pretty strong halogen lights which shine into the gas station. This gives the gas station not only an eerie lighting when the blinds are casting long striped shadows, but also blinds the teller to an extent. As he peered through the window, trying to focus on the dog, it was gone. He didn't think much of it. Even if it was a wolf, he was inside and wolves didn't tend to rob gas stations at night. Wolves were common here, but this wolf was huge. He brushed it off, returned to his mindless watching of the TV. A couple of hours go by and not a single customer has entered since the last one. He was just about to refill some condiments when he heard a large thud coming from the back. It wasn't inside. He could hear that. But it came from the back, and behind the building they keep a garage. The gas station had been visited before by the scavenging homeless, but my friend didn't really care. It wasn't his garbage, and it was just garbage. Let them take it. But it kept getting noisier. He decided to grab a flashlight and a gun from the office and circle around back to tell whoever ventured there to leave, as he had had enough. His presence alone would have scared off anyone, but he wanted to feel safe just in case. He exited through the sliding doors, walking past the window he was just sitting by. As he turned the corner, he shines the light towards the dumpsters. As the light comes and hits the dumpsters, my friend instantly drops the flashlight and gun. It's the huge dog he saw before, scouring through the garbage. It wasn't a dog though. It clearly stood on its hind legs, reaching the same height as him. It couldn't be a bear as it was too gaunt. The creature's eyes had been glowing in the light of the flashlight, making it even more terrifying. He ran inside the gas station and he wasn't followed. He locked the door and stayed inside the whole night and quit the next day. My friend is still convinced that he saw a Skinwalker, a shape-shifting shaman of sorts which are a common occurrence in Native American lore and culture. Sorry for the absence of blood, guts, and glory, it's just a really creepy story. When I was about 11 or 12, we lived in a small house made of mud and stone. A lot like our house now. It was two of my brothers and I in the house. Everyone else had gone to the Jame's feast and left us to tend to the sheep. We were getting ready for bed when we heard the dogs going crazy outside. Thinking it was nothing more than coyotes howling in the distance, we told them to be quiet. We began to drift off into sleep, and the dogs would not shut up. Somehow, I was able to go to sleep for a few hours. Then, I woke up very late in the night. It was very quiet and still in the house, save for my brother's snoring and breathing. I realized I needed to use the outhouse and woke up my brother to take me there. He teased me about being scared, which I certainly was. We went out with our flashlight to the outhouse. The dogs began with their crazed barking out in the sagebrush, going from one place to the next. My brother went first, and I waited outside for him. While waiting, I tried to follow the dogs with my flashlight. Suddenly, there was a very loud whine from one of the dogs. Then everything went quiet again. It was really too quiet for that time of the year. Not even the sheep were making noise. Suddenly, I heard a few of the dogs going completely mad by the truck. When I looked over, there was this man. He was unbelievably tall, leaning one arm on the cab roof of the truck. He was looking at the dogs for a little, and then suddenly kicking one of them. They all scattered in different directions. The thing looked up at me, and I saw its face. It had pure white face, like a full moon. Two burning red eyes, and a slight smile that was pure black. I could not move or make a sound. It began to walk toward me with long strides until it finally towered over me. All I began to see was a dark red, like the color of blood whenever you cut the throat of a sheep. I kept getting deeper and deeper into its eyes. I could faintly hear my brother coming out of the outhouse. With this, the thing looked up at him. Reality came rushing back to me. I noticed that my brother was too distracted with his buckle to realize what was going on. I also noticed that this thing's long hands hovering just inches from my head. Its skin was black ash, and he smelled like a bloated dead animal in summer. I was still unable to move or speak. The Skinwalker began to move toward my brother. Finally noticing this figure, my brother became paralyzed as I was. Closer and closer it drew, reaching an arm out toward my brother's head. Something finally snapped in me. I became unbearably angry. I broke from the trance and lunged at the Skinwalker, raising my arms like a wild animal and baring my teeth at it. A growl came out that I never knew I could make. I became more angry at the thing that was trying to hurt us. It kept that smile at first, but the angrier I got, the more the smile faded. Finally, with everything I had, I began to make this primal roar at it. It fell backwards and ran away into the night. Looking back at me, its eyes were dim and dull, its smile now long since gone. The next morning, the family returned home from the feast. After relaying the story to my parents, they quickly hired a medicine man.